Hi everyone, welcome back to Social Anxiety Life. This is episode 8. Last week we left it on a bit of a cliffhanger, so we're going to continue Simon's story this week, as well as talking about some other scenarios where we have had overthinking as a major part of our anxiety. We really hope you're enjoying the podcast. Don't forget to leave a review on Spotify and keep viewing. We're really grateful for everyone who keeps listening to the episodes. Have a great week.
I can think of another really recent example of overthinking, and it links to something that happened in my flat on Monday. Monday morning, I noticed that my fridge light wasn't working, and I checked the back of the fridge. Everything seemed to be working okay, but the light wasn't on. Everything sort of felt chilled. It didn't feel cold. So I thought, well, I'll leave it. I'll go to work. Came back and it wasn't working, and the food in the fridge didn't feel as chilled as it was in the morning. So in my head, I'm thinking, logically, I have to tell someone about it. But at the same time, my thoughts were saying that person's going to think that I broke the fridge,
Right.
or I've done something to the fridge, and they're going to get up. They're going to get cross with me for making the fridge not work.
Yeah.
And I was pacing up and down the flat for a good sort of 30, 40 minutes. And I came to the conclusion that, no, I have to tell someone about it. Because if I don't, then the food's going to go off.
Yeah.
And I won't have a fridge to put things in. So I WhatsApped who I needed to. And they came up and said, what's the problem? And I told them what the problem was. And they said, have you tried looking at the back of the fridge? Have you tried looking at the connection? Is it okay? I said, yeah, it's fine. And then they pulled the fridge out, and they looked at the plug, and it ended up being a fuse wasn't working. A fuse had gone.
Yeah.
So they said, I'm just going to go downstairs and get a new fuse. And he'd sorted it out in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the fridge was working.
But you'd spent how long worrying about it?
A long time.
It?
A long time.
Yeah.
Whilst my perception of that is that people don't think that's normal to worry about something as little as that, or something that seems quite little.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I do that.
No. Well, I definitely, I'm thinking of a recent experience of mine, which was going to a social event, which was very busy. There were a lot of people there. And I didn't know anyone. I went with one person, who obviously I knew, didn't know anyone else there, and there was probably over 100 people there. And there was a lot of overthinking. Even when I was at the event, I was overthinking, sort of hoping I was coming across okay to people, and sort of hoping that I wasn't being too quiet, or am I smiling enough, and I hope I don't come across awkward, because I feel a bit awkward, but I hope it doesn't come across. And at one point I did just say, I'm just going to step out for 5 minutes. And I just went outside by myself, sat down outside for 5 minutes, just because I felt like I just needed that breathing space, because I could feel myself worrying and overthinking. And so I sort of took myself outside and then took myself back. And actually the whole event was really nice. It was lovely. Everyone there was lovely. But I did spend a lot of the time when I was there very much having those thoughts of, am I saying enough? And I had a few moments where there was conversations happening about things that I knew nothing about. It was like shared experiences. A group of 6 people all talking about a shared experience, and I'm stood there thinking, I literally cannot contribute to this because I wasn't there. I don't know what you're talking about. So you stand there and you smile and you laugh when they laugh, but you feel very awkward, and you're very, in that moment, I was so overly aware of myself.
Was there any sort of physical symptoms of your anxiety coming to the fore when that was happening?
I would say it was mostly just kind of like the slightly quickened heartbeat. I was quite lucky, I think, in that instance that I didn't get like the shaking, because I've had that before, like the shaking, the actual real panic. It was a pretty low level. It was very much more an overthinking situation rather than physical symptoms. But I had a lot of thoughts about how I was coming across in those moments, and just not wanting. Also, like the person I went with, I didn't want to sort of sound so silly, but I didn't want to let them down. I wanted the people there to like me and to, because I didn't want him to feel any kind of way if I was too quiet or anything like that.
It's interesting in this. There's a book by Claire Easton which is called "We're All Mad Here: The No Nonsense Guide to Living with Social Anxiety," and she says, and I quote, "Negative thoughts such as everyone will think I'm an idiot, I'm a loser, I'm boring. Personally, I convince myself that other people don't want to talk to me. It's an overwhelming fear that you're going to embarrass yourself." She goes into quite a lot of depth about different situations, about how she presents herself physically at different social events. Am I sweating, for example? Because I do that sometimes. When I get anxious, I do sweat. I feel tense. My muscles sort of contract. And then I sort of predict about what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I think at the crux of it, anxiety is about what's going to happen rather than being in the present moment.
Well, I've heard, what's the saying? Anxiety is worrying about something that hasn't even happened.
That's it.
Pretty much sums it up, I think.
It's interesting because if we bring it round to our job, and in our job, we deal with a lot of people. And when we teach our classes, I don't get social anxiety at all.
No.
Does it almost feel like that when you're teaching, it's more like, here's your stage, you are now doing your thing, as it were?
Yeah, I guess it's like the professional me versus me as a person. When I'm at work, I'm professional me. I'm doing my job. I know what I'm doing. I know I'm good at it, and I just get on with it. Social situations, you feel very much more like you're being judged for who you are as a person. Whereas I don't get that in my job. My job is, I'm good at my job. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go home.
Yeah, I feel completely the same. When I'm teaching, I'm in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about teaching and my experiences, I'm in my comfort zone. When I talk about other things, I maybe could describe them as particular interests, special interests. Sometimes when you talk about those things a lot, other people don't like it because they just think you're going on and on about something. But my interests and my special interests are my way in.
Yeah.
And some people get it, some people entertain it, but there's other people who don't really entertain it at all.
Yeah.
And that also makes me think that I'm not a good person sometimes, because why are they talking about this? Why have they linked this to this? And why doesn't it all come together? Why are you going off at a tangent? Do you have any, apart from the going outside at the recent social event, do you have any other strategies that you use when it comes to overthinking things?
Not really. I read something somewhere that says as soon as a thought, like a negative thought, comes into your head, or a thought about, like I said, something that hasn't happened, you literally in your head say stop. Like you say the word stop, and then you sort of have to change your thought to something else. And it's quite hard to do. Like I had to practice doing it. So when I would get a thought of, oh, what if this, I would literally have to say in my head, stop. And then I would say, and I think about something else, or I heard someone say you have to rephrase it. So if you start thinking, what if I'm really quiet and everyone thinks I'm weird? You say, no, but what if everyone thinks you're lovely? What if everyone thinks you're a really nice person? You just have to turn it into like a positive. And it's not easy to do, and it's still something I have to work on and like practice. But I do find the more that I do that, the more effective it is.
I find something that's benefited me a lot recently, and I've actually done it the three examples that I mentioned: the fridge, the coffee shop, the cafe. I use an app called the Calm app,
Oh, yes, I've used that.
which was recommended to me, and I have done guided hypnotherapy before, and I found it very useful. The Calm app's got lots of nice things on, like little bits that you can put on. And when I just need a moment, I just need something, as well as going out for a walk. I'm lucky to be very near a beautiful common with a beautiful garden, which I go to quite regularly. But the Calm app has given me sort of that sort of space and that moment when I need it.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of trial and error as well, because something that works for one person might not be as effective for someone else.
And interesting you should mention that, because I was reading about the tennis player Naomi Osaka, and she said about one of her strategies of having her headphones on. And the headphones, for me, when I have my headphones on, it's sort of a recognised symbol, as in I'm listening to my music.
Don't talk to me.
Please don't talk to me. And she was also saying, Naomi Osaka, she was saying about one of the opens that she didn't fulfill one of the media commitments that she was supposed to do. And it was for her mental health.
Yeah.
And whether that was fully recognised, I believe she got a fine for that.
Right. Oh.
But that shows that I think there's still a long way to go with other people who don't have overthinking thoughts or have social anxiety. It shows that there's still things that need to be done.
Yeah. And I think unless you have experienced overthinking, you will never fully understand it, but you can definitely make the effort to.
I agree. I think, as I said before, there's people who understand it really well. There's people who are curious about it and will ask questions. And there's people who ignore it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people I know that completely ignore it. And it feels really frustrating that whether they purposefully ignore it or whether they just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think people there's still work to do in that respect.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, summing it up now, to me, it seems like overthinking presents itself in a lot of situations, not just for us, but for other people as well, judging by our Facebook group. And it's something that bothers people.
Yeah.
It bothers people through the way they interpret their social interactions. It influences their self-image, how they perceive themselves. And it also presents itself in overthinking in real life. And maybe we need to think more about how do we support people more fully with that, with making adjustments, providing spaces for people. And if they need to do something, they shouldn't need to ask to do it. They should just go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's part of why we're doing this podcast, why we have the Facebook group, is to try and provide that kind of space for people to talk openly about it and realise they're not alone, that actually a lot of people experience it, and to kind of have a bit more understanding about it.
Hi everyone, well, we hope you enjoyed episode 8. We have got more episodes coming, so keep a lookout. We've got our Facebook group. Feel free to drop a comment, or if you've got any feedback or even any suggestions for future episodes, we'd love to hear what you've got to say. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you soon.